You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we welcome in Laura Cowan, estate planning attorney and the creator of 2 Hour Lifestyle Lawyer in New York City. We are very eager to learn about this ever since we've seen it come up on our social media feed. So, Laura, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, what's going on in the city there?
It is finally not 8 billion degrees in the city.
That's
I don't know
good.
what kind of weather you're having, but we've had a really hot summer and the temperature
Yes.
just broke a couple days ago.
That's great. Feels like fall. It's almost football season. So Laura, I'm gonna jump right in here because like you're near New York City. You're practicing in New York City, but going through your LinkedIn a little bit, Iowa State University, then to Minnesota law. Like, what's going on here? Are you from the Midwest? Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Canada, which is
Nice.
I know another loop to throw into the mix. I was born in Halifax, but my family moved to the States when I was about 5. So I grew up in Iowa and I went to college at Iowa State. But ever since the trip to New York City when I was, I don't know, 13 or 14, I was like, I'm gonna live here one day, right?
Wow.
And
Okay.
I just loved it. So the minute I graduated college, I hopped into my car and drove out, and I've been here ever since.
What was it like going to school, like in Minnesota law? I mean, you probably didn't know any different back then, but maybe when you got to New York City, you had a little culture shock.
Well, it's funny because I went to law school a little bit later in life. So I had
Okay.
already lived in New York City for about 10 years before I went to law school.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
and I went to University of Minnesota. It was the best school I got into. It's a top 20 school, but I also have a sister who lives out there. So I thought, I'll go to the Midwest for a while, go to law school at Minnesota. And then I came back to New York because really this is where my heart is.
Wow, that's amazing. That you got to go back there and like be with your sister and like study sort of like near where you grew up. So like, was there a defining moment in your life when you knew you wanted to be a lawyer?
No, I don't think that there was. My undergraduate degree was in accounting, and most lawyers run away from numbers. So I always loved reading and writing as well. And I think it's one of the reasons that estate planning really drew me in, because that's sort of the perfect combination of dealing with numbers and money, but also dealing with the law and families. And then there's also a very entrepreneurial component to estate
Right.
planning.
Right.
It's something you can do on your own. You don't have to join a big firm. So it's that mix that really drew me in.
Totally. And in law school, you had some great activities. Like you won Best Oralist Award for first year legal writing. Even you're in estate planning, but that's okay. It's still like something I'd probably hang up in my office if I won that. So congrats on that. And then,
Thank you. Yes, no, keep going.
okay, well, there's one other accolade. You were the president and founding member of the Older Wiser Law Students and Business Law Association. I love that. Tell us about that.
Owls. Didn't your law school have an owls?
Owls? Oh, no, I didn't catch
Older,
that.
wiser law students, owls?
No, okay. Well, it said founder, founding member. Oh,
Oh,
so
I
it was
gotcha.
out there, but you founded it at your school. Got you. Okay.
At my school. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was 35, I think, when I went to law school, maybe
Okay.
34. So it felt ancient at the time, although in retrospect, it's doesn't seem so bad. But yeah, the best oralist award was something that was kind of cool, because I never did debate or anything like that in high
Yeah.
school, and it wasn't something I ever thought that I would really be good at.
Yep.
And in law school, in your legal writing course, you've got to do an oral argument. We did ours in front of we actually had a real federal judge that we argued in front of at a real federal courthouse. And I was really, really nervous, but I did really well. And it's just kind of one of those surprising things that you're like, I didn't realize I could actually do that,
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So you graduate law school, Minnesota. Like, what was your first job at a law school?
So I worked for a brief time at a law firm in Minneapolis doing a little bit of estate planning, but it was one of those sort of really old school firms, and it was in Minneapolis, and I really wanted to get back to New York. So I wasn't there very long, and shortly thereafter I came back out to New York and hung my own shingle, which in retrospect seems crazy.
Now,
It's
what
like one of those things like can't believe I did it.
did you take the New York bar right off the bat? Okay. And
I
so you
did.
took
I
New
took a
York and
Minnesota
Minnesota?
bar and then
Wow.
oh, you go.
No, you took the Minnesota bar and like flew out to New York or vice versa?
I think I took the Minnesota bar in the summer and the New
Okay.
York bar 6 months later.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. So we have the logistics down. So tell us, Laura, why estate planning?
You know, it's the perfect combination of three things that I really like. And like we said before, I like the numbers part of it.
Yep.
It's also you really feel like you're helping people, which is we all say we want to help people, but this is definitely a good way to help people. And then I really like being an entrepreneurial lawyer. I
Okay.
think even more than being a lawyer, I'm an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And this is one of those practice areas that if you want to have your own business, if you're doing patent litigation, my sister did patent litigation for many years. You've got to be at a big firm if you're going to do patent litigation. Estate planning, you can do it part-time. You can now do it virtually. You can do your own thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we're going to get into the 2 hour lifestyle lawyer. But I do have another question. Tell me about like this is something I personally wonder about, like the numbers. Dealing with numbers in estate planning. Do you find a lot of people shy away from going and doing wills and trusts and estate planning because they feel that they're going to have, as you said, I think somewhere have an LLM in taxation?
I think that they do, and it's really a mistake to avoid it for that reason because most people you're just dealing with the basic assets, a home and life insurance and some bank accounts, and that's kind of it. The LLM and taxation is really helpful, I think, if you want to do taxable estates, right?
Right.
But most people don't have a taxable estate these days because the exemptions are so high. So my advice to lawyers would be don't shy away from it. Most of the work doesn't involve a lot of numbers. And if you do get a client who's got a really high net worth, refer it out for a fee split.
Okay. And how do you know from the outset, like how much your client's going to have, like in terms of if you can handle the estate planning or not? Do you give them a survey or like how does that work?
Great question.
Questionnaire, maybe?
I give them a questionnaire and
Okay.
I insist that they send it back because one of the things that I teach in my course is you're going to show people using their own financial information that they've just given you. You're going to use that to show them how expensive it's going to be if they don't hire you.
Okay.
Right? You can't do that if they haven't given you any information. And it's also like a little bit of the red velvet rope policy. People have got to have a little bit of skin in the game. So I insist that they fill out a questionnaire before I meet with them. If they don't, I cancel the meeting.
Gotcha. Meaning like they've already sort of confided some information in you and they feel like they have. Gotcha. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So okay, we're gonna move on with you've had your own law firm in New York for approximately 7 years and 8 months. And
Approximately.
approximately, right.
And
So
13 days.
okay, in 13 days. So maybe specifically 7 years. All right, but about a year ago or so, you launched 2 Hour Lifestyle Lawyer. So tell us about 2 Hour Lifestyle Lawyer.
So this came about post-COVID, right? I launched this 2 years post-COVID. And the reason I launched it was because I found myself in a really good position. I was making good money, but I was working part-time because I'd really dialed in my systems and my processes. So I wasn't working nearly as hard as I had in the beginning. And I was doing everything virtually. And I thought, gosh, the world has really, really changed in two major ways. One is that I think lawyers are just tired of working all the time and they're tired of feeling like they have to work all the time. And that's everybody, but including lawyers, right? So there was that shift in the market. And I think there was also a shift in a lot of attorneys wanting to add estate planning as a practice area now that we can do it virtually.
Right.
And so I saw that shift and I thought, you know what, I'm going to start a course that teaches lawyers how to do estate planning part-time if that's what they want and how to do it virtually. I'm
Okay.
walking the talk. I'm working a couple of hours a day on my estate planning practice, and I spend the rest of it with my other business ventures.
Okay, that's amazing. And you do free trainings for lawyers who want to add estate planning as a practice area, but they might not know where to start. Tell us like what the first step is to adding estate planning to your firm.
Well, I know it sounds kind of self-serving to say this, but the first step I would say is to get a coach, is to take a course, whether that's my course or there's other courses out there. There's, look at all the options, but I think there's no reason to recreate the wheel. Someone else, I mean, I literally built my law firm in ultra competitive New York City. I had no money. I had no experience. I started from complete ground zero. So I've done everything and I've made all the mistakes, and I'm now ranked, according to Yelp, the second best estate planning lawyer in New York.
Amazing.
Right. So I'm doing
Congratulations.
something right. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
So why, spend all the time and the energy trying to figure it out when you can invest in my course? You'll get an ROI on one or two clients. Get a coach. That's the number one piece of advice that I can give you.
Right. And so to go back to the numbers thing, because honestly, like I think that's why I'm licensed in 3 states to practice law. I have a quasi government job, which I love, just putting that out there on the record. But the estate planning thing, I've never like loved numbers and taxes. It's never been like my strong suit, but I think it is a really interesting concept to be able to take on clients and work with them and like something that's sort of, they're obviously a lot of clients are vulnerable in the situations, but it is a very sensitive area dealing with people's money and estate. So like what advice can you give somebody who's not like a numbers person that wants to go ahead and pursue this?
Yeah, I would say, you're right. You're going to have to learn a little bit about different kinds of assets. What is a certain kind of retirement account, and understand a little bit about life insurance and things like that. The numbers themselves are not complex, right? Like I said before, you can serve most people with a basic will or a basic living trust, and neither of those involve anything having to do with the estate tax.
Right.
And so you don't have to have a numbers background. I mean, I'm a former CPA, and I know it looks like that you think it would make it easier for me, but estate planning is not income tax. It's not auditing. Estate planning is knowing the law. And there's a little bit of numbers thrown in when you think about assets that you yourself probably already have.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. So the website is 2hourlifestylelawyer.com, and you teach lawyers how to launch and market a virtual part-time estate planning practice. So what else can you tell us about this? Like what you're teaching and how long the course is?
Yeah, so we teach everything from A to Z, from the minute you get a client. So really the way we break it down is what I call ACE. And ACE stands for attracting leads. You've got to be able to attract leads, right? C is for closing those leads. If you can't close people, you're going to struggle. And we all know that closing as an estate planning attorney is a little bit harder maybe than closing in personal injury when someone just got in a car accident and they're sort of desperate to
Right.
hire
That's
you. So you've
true.
got the
Yep.
attracting, you've got the close, you've got to be able to close, and you've got the E, which is the executing the work. And the course has got 10 modules that teaches you what you do from the minute you get a lead all the way to the consultation. They hire you, you draft the estate plan, you sign it, you send them on their way. And so that includes learning the law, learning what meetings you should host, how long each meeting should be, how do you draft and design design and draft the estate planning documents, how do you get them signed. We've got a lot of lawyers in the course that are brand new to estate planning, but I would say about 2/3 of them are not. And they're just really struggling. They're struggling to get business. They're struggling to put systems in place. They're struggling to outsource. They're struggling to charge what they're worth. So these are all the things that we
Interesting.
teach in the course.
That's a lot there that you just said. Struggling to charge what you're worth. I mean, that that's tough for lawyers. Like, what advice would you give somebody who is like struggling to say, well, this is a $3,500 deal, but I'm just going to give it to them for, $2,000.
Yeah, the advice I would give is that you have got to find a way to convey to your clients the value of your services. And it's never about the actual dollar amount, right? It's always about, well, what are you getting for it? And if you're able to demonstrate to someone, which we teach you this in the course, you filled out your questionnaire, you've got $1 million in assets. In New York City, if you pass away without an estate plan, that's going to cost you $30,000 to $40,000 in probate. My fee is 4,000. Well, which number is bigger?
Right.
40,000 or 4,000? You've got to be able to show people it's going to be more expensive for them not to hire you.
Right.
And once you're able to do that, they know what they're buying and it's easier to write the check.
And I think what you say about closing is very interesting in terms of personal injury. Somebody's injured, there's a statute of limitations. They got to get after it. They have to, maybe they have to wait a little while to see like what their injuries are. But with estate planning, people can just kind of waver and like not really. Well, I'm ready, but I'm not ready. I don't want to fork over like the $4,000. What do you have any advice for that? I know this is all part of your training, but I'm curious, like what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two biggest things that I talk about with my students, one is education. Education is really important with estate planning. And what I mean by that is hosting workshops, right? Seminars and webinars that educate your prospects on why they need you. They come into it thinking, I don't even need this. And if I did need it, I can just do it on LegalZoom. Right. So to the extent that you can educate your community, they're going to be more likely to hire you. A personal injury attorney doesn't need to educate anybody, right? A DUI attorney doesn't need to educate anyone, but your estate planning clients, they need to learn more about estate planning and more about how you can help and what problems you're solving. So the way to do that is by hosting workshops, webinars, and seminars. And then the second piece is just nurturing. People may not be ready to hire you right away. So you want to stay top of mind and you want to have a lead flow and sort of a pipeline and just, keep people moving through that, sending marketing emails, things like that.
Yep.
Those would be the two big things to remember. But to the extent, if you're starting an estate planning practice and you're thinking, how am I going to get clients? The first thing I would say is to be out there educating your community. I got my first clients. I'd never done a will and I hosted a workshop and I got a bunch of business from it.
What was that like doing your first will?
I thought you were going to say my first workshop. My first will is
your first workshop. You could tell us about the workshop and then leading up until getting your first client and drafting a will. Like, what was that process?
Well, the thing I like to say about the workshop is that it did not come easily to me, right? This idea. I mean, I had 6 women show up to a church on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and I was so nervous I thought I was going to die. Like, I really am not a good public speaker. This just was not something that came naturally to me. And the only reason I did it was because I felt like I had to. And, I really was very, very nervous and uncomfortable, but I did it and I did get business out of it. And one of my favorite stories to tell is that, I presented to 6 moms and one of them came up to me afterwards and she said, thank you for hosting. And then she said, I was so nervous about coming to this. Which was kind of a weird thing to say. I was like, why would you be nervous about coming to my teeny tiny event with 6 people? I was the one who was so nervous. But then she said, I was nervous about coming because I thought you were going to make me feel stupid. And I've never forgotten that because it made me realize people want this information. They care about their families. They care about doing the right thing, but they may have been made to feel stupid prior, especially if you're a woman. I'm just going to throw that out there. And so to the extent that you can educate your community in a way that doesn't make them feel intimidated, I don't think you'll ever lack for business.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then once you do good by one person, they'll refer you to the next, I would think. So when somebody says to you, oh, I could just do this on LegalZoom, like what is your response to that?
Yeah, so I don't spend a lot of time trying to convince people. I think that's key. I don't spend a lot of time with it. And in fact, even if you go to my website, that's in the Q&A. And I always just say, I sort of validate them. That is one of your options, right? The reason LegalZoom costs less is because you're getting something different. You're getting documents, but you're not getting any advice about what should go in the documents or about your specific circumstances. There's not going to be someone to pick up the phone and answer your questions. You're not going to be sure that they were executed with the proper legal formalities. So it's something different, and that's why the price is different. If it's important to you to have someone who's answering your questions, who's going to speak to you about how your situation applies in your state according to the law, then you should probably work with an attorney. And then I sort of say, it's up to you. But when you leave it like that, it sort of sounds like it would be absurd to go to LegalZoom, right? But really, you don't want to
Right.
have someone tell you LegalZoom is horrible, don't do it, because it's more effective if you just tell them the differences and then say, it's up to you.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So on your website, it says estate planning is one of those unicorn practice areas. Everyone needs your services, and the majority of the population can be serviced with a basic will or revocable living trust. No LLM and taxation is needed. So I like the unicorn piece. Can you talk to that a little bit?
And I didn't think it was as much of a unicorn practice area 3 years ago pre-COVID, but I think it is now. And I'll just kind of run through the list. You know, you can charge flat fees. You don't have to bill by the hour. I collect everything in advance.
Hmm.
You've got control over your schedule. It's easy to put systems in place. You're going to move everyone through the same meetings, the same process. Now, of course, the documents themselves will be customized, but the system itself is going to be the same. And you're helping people. And now that it's post 2020, you can do it all virtually if you want. If you want to do it in person, that's fine too. But you know, if you're a lawyer out there and you're thinking, I've got this law degree, I'm smart, I want to do something important, I want to help my family, but I can only devote 4 hours a day because I've got a couple of kids or whatever the reason is, estate planning might be a really good fit for you. And if you want to work full time and make $1 million a year, well, fine, that's fine
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
right? But we're teaching more of a lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like for me, I'm thinking like, well, $1 million a year, how are you getting all those clients in there? Like, I mean, you've got to really be hustling around. Isn't hustling taking you outside that like 2 to 4 hour range?
Yes. Yes. You know, the funny thing is, when I first opened my practice, I thought, my God, if I could make 10,000 a month, I would be thrilled. You know, it's really a pretty good number for most people. And I think that then society beats that out of you, and you take these courses and you follow these gurus, and they're all about building your $1 million law firm. And I think that I was honestly one of the first people to stop and think, well, not everybody wants $1 million law firm. You know, most
Yeah.
people, one thing COVID taught us is that most people would rather make a little bit less and be able to be done by 4 o'clock so they can pick up their kids from school.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So, it is an interesting concept, especially because lawyers, they got to bill by the hour at these big firms and, they make a fortune, but a lot of them, but, the lifestyle, when you start really working in the real world, it's, you want that time to yourself and for other things and your kids and your family. So this is like an amazing way to balance or add something to your firm that might end up taking up the entire practice. You never know. Do all of your clients have to be in the New York jurisdiction? Is that how it
No,
works?
no, we've got members in almost every state. We've moved about 200 lawyers through our course in the
Okay.
past year, which I think speaks volumes about how interested people are
Yeah.
about having more of a lifestyle practice. Yeah, we've got maybe 10 lawyers in New York, and everybody else is spread out across the country.
That's amazing. And do they have you? Like, if they have any like issues, can they contact you, or do you have people working for you that they can contact?
So we've got a couple of I'm very involved. That's the one thing that I'll say, right? This is new enough and young enough that I'm still very involved in our Facebook group. I do the coaching calls. I do all the training.
Okay.
We do have a coach who practicing estate planning attorney who teaches the students. I almost call them kids.
Yeah.
The students how to do estate planning. So she's like, that's her specialty in terms of learning the substantive law. And we've got a mindset coach as well.
Gotcha.
But this is my baby right now.
That's awesome. And like, so somebody like me, I'm licensed in 3 states. Like, would I have to know the specific, say I want to take clients from Mass, Connecticut, and Maine, where I'm at, like, I'm in Massachusetts. Like, would I have to, like, know the rules of each different state to take a client from each different jurisdiction?
You would, and that's one of the things that can be a little bit tricky. One way that helps with that, I don't know if you're aware, but there's drafting software, right?
Okay.
You've got Wealth Counsel, you've got Interactive Legal. Those are two really good ones, and their
Wow.
programs are all state specific.
Okay.
So they're going to help you generate documents that conform with your state, but it is your responsibility as the attorney to know the laws in each of the different states.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And so, like, how long does it take to learn the system, the 2 hour lifestyle lawyer?
Are you thinking about joining? I feel like I'm going to see you on an upcoming discovery call.
I might see. This is good. This is how interesting I am. So I might interested, not interesting.
Yeah,
I'm very interested.
it is interesting, and I get that question a lot. It depends on how much time you have to devote to it. We have a woman who just joined last month who's in California, and she's already hosted her first webinar, and she's already closed her first client.
Wow.
But she sort of went all in. And she was like, it's magic. She keeps saying it's magic. And I'm like, no, it's not magic. You just follow the system.
Yeah.
Maybe if you don't have more than an hour or two to devote per day, then it's going to take you a little bit longer.
Okay.
And the thing that I always like to point out is that, it's not a too good to be true thing. But you do have to get up to speed on the law. Right, you do have to take some time to get your systems in place and all the software that we recommend, and it takes some time to do that. So you won't be a 2 hour lifestyle lawyer right out of the gate. But having said that, once you dial it in, I find it very comforting knowing that for the rest of my life, I can do an estate plan for someone here in New York City and earn $4,000 or $5,000.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a nice little thing to have in your back pocket.
I'd say so. How long does it take to learn the law for like the average person?
I would say you can start doing basic wills and, healthcare proxies and powers of attorney pretty quickly. It's
Okay.
going to take a little bit more time to learn and understand revocable living trusts. But depending on your state, I do a lot of trusts in New York. If you live in a different state, like I think in Texas, probate's pretty simple, so they don't do as many trusts there.
Yeah, I
So
just
it's
wondered, like, somebody they send the survey to the prospective client, like the questionnaire, and then the person fills it out, and then the attorney's looking at it like, oh, that's too much. Like, I don't know, like, I can't do that. Like, how often does that happen? Like, if the person just wants to start doing simple wills.
Yeah, I would say if you get the questionnaire back, you look and see how many assets they have, and that's
Okay.
going to include what life insurance they have.
Okay.
Right, because life insurance is part of your estate, and if you've got a few million in life insurance, that's going to make the number a lot bigger. But so in New York, for example, we have a state estate tax on more than about 6 million, and I don't really do a lot of taxable estates. And so if someone comes back to me with assets of more than 6 million, I might refer that out.
Okay.
So you, as the attorney, what I would do, only 13 states have an estate tax. The rest of them is just federal, and there's only a federal estate tax on married couples more than about 25 million. Right. So look at what the
Wait,
prospect sends
couples on
back.
more than 25 million? Really?
Yeah. It's a very high limit
Well,
right
it is
now.
New York. I mean, come on, you people over there,
No, that's the
You want to go
federal.
get a sandwich in New York, it's like $55.
That's true.
Maybe not. I don't know. I'm sorry. I love
Almost.
New York, okay? But all right.
The sandwiches are expensive here.
That came out, I don't know. It was
It's absolutely true.
on the fly.
The 25 million is the federal estate tax though, so that applies to everyone. But I guess what I'm
Okay.
saying is when you get the questionnaire back, add up the assets. If you feel like it's going to creep into the taxable estate territory, then maybe you refer it out.
Okay. So within the 2 hour lifestyle lawyer, do you provide forms? And like what else? Like what do you provide in terms of like forms and documents to assist?
Yeah. So the drafting software I had mentioned, Wealth Counsel, Interactive Legal, they're going to provide you with the actual
Okay.
estate planning documents, right? So that's not part of the course because it doesn't need to be, because Wealth Counsel and Interactive Legal do that for you. But one of the big things that we provide, and there's a lot, so I can't go through it all, but I've gotten hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in business by hosting webinars.
Okay.
And the short answer here is I give you my webinar slides. And the reason that matters is because most lawyers make the mistake of getting up there, Number one, they present a presentation that's dull as dirt and nobody understands, right? So people aren't connecting. And then number two, they finish and there's no call to action. And so
Okay.
they just say, thanks, if you have any questions, give me a call. And then nobody calls and they don't get any business. Right. So one of
Okay.
the big benefits of our course is I'm going to give you my sales presentation and you can start using it right away. There's no point having 50 people come to your webinar if none of them hire you.
Right, right.
Right. You've got to have a way to convert people. And so
You
that's
gotta
part
you
of it.
gotta bring like you gotta bring Dunkin' Donuts coffee and some donuts and
If you're doing it in
I'm s-
person,
no, I'm sorry.
I'm a big,
Oh, that's
I'm
in
a big,
person. Okay, I'm sorry. You're talking so okay, so that's actually interesting. I know you said this is like virtual, but you're even doing those this is a big point. Like you're doing the workshop, the presentations virtual. People are signing up to virtual.
yes, I
Okay.
haven't done an in-person workshop in like 4 years. Barry, let me tell you,
Amazing.
I'm sorry, but Benny, I did a workshop, a presentation about, like I said, it was like about a year and a half ago now for a mom's group that had about 70 moms that showed up. And I've gotten over $100,000 in business from
And that
that.
was virtual?
Yes,
That's amazing.
it is amazing.
Wow.
It doesn't happen very often. It was kind of a unicorn event, but this idea that you can't close over a webinar is just not true. It's just not
That's
true.
incredible. That's a
Yeah.
big selling point. Like you can close over webinar. I mean, you really, and I think what's important here, and I'm sure like you teach this to everybody, is that you have to find those maybe organizations to go and speak in front of, or like meetings to go speak in front of, or that sort of thing, right? To in order to sell the estate
Right.
plan. Yeah,
How do you get in front of these people, right? And then
right.
that's what we teach in the course is, think about who your avatar is. Is it a parent of minor children? Is it a senior citizen? Is it a business owner? And those groups exist everywhere already. They're not just on Facebook, right? I'm not opposed to Facebook ads, and you can get a great ROI and all of that, but they also exist, just out in the community. And it's much less expensive usually to get in front of them if you just sort of target them organically.
Okay. Wow. So are you doing two sets of online meetings, like one to lawyers to try to get them to join, 2 hour lifestyle lawyer, and then one to prospective clients?
Yeah, so I'm running both businesses, but I've
Okay.
really tailored back my law firm. I want to keep doing 3 or 4 clients a month just because I want to, be out there active so I know what works and what doesn't work because everything I learn, I teach in my course. So,
Right.
but I probably spend about 80% of my time on 2 hour lifestyle lawyer.
It's amazing. It's a great concept. So you think it, I already asked you like how long it takes to like learn the system, like you have to learn the laws and what types of attorneys right now do you think can benefit most from learning the system?
Yeah, so I would say we've got kind of 3 buckets. We've got people who are brand new to estate planning and they're starting from scratch. We've actually got law students who are like ready to go the minute they pass the bar, right? So
Really?
these people are great because we're going to teach them everything from A to Z, nuts to bolts. How do you get up and running? We also have people who've been doing estate planning for 30 years, but maybe, their systems, they don't have any systems, or they're out of date, or they don't know how to do things virtually. So we have people like that in the course. And then we have people that are somewhere in the middle. They've kind of dabbled in estate planning. Maybe they're doing a little bit of estate planning, a little bit of litigation, and they want to get rid
Okay.
of the litigation. So they're like, well, I need to now market my estate planning practice. How do I do that?
Okay.
And so it's really a very wide range.
Gotcha. So Laura, you keep referring to systems. So like what can you give me an example of a system within the program?
Yeah, so one of the systems we teach is the nice thing about estate planning is that you can move everyone through the same process. So we teach a 4 meeting process, right? You're going to first get in front of people, hopefully by hosting a webinar.
Yep.
And they see you at the webinar, and the call to action is going to be come in for a peace of mind planning session, which is what we call our initial consultation. So that's where you do the close, right? They've been pre-educated at the webinar. They come in one-to-one via Zoom. And this is when you show them how expensive it's going to be for you if they don't hire you, right? So
Right.
that's when they say yes, they write you a check. Then you're going to have another meeting, which is a design meeting. And this is where you get all the information you need from them to actually draft their documents. And then you're going to have a signing ceremony. So it's 4 meetings. Everyone goes through the same setup. Every meeting is sort of the same amount of time. Now, sometimes you'll get someone who needs a bit more hand holding, but more or less, you've got this system in place and it benefits you as the attorney, but it also benefits them. Because they know exactly what's happening. They know exactly what the steps are. So that's one example of our system.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome. You've got it all down. Laura Cowan, do you have anything else that we left out today?
The only thing I would say is, it's been, there's a couple of things. It is possible what I'm teaching, and I firmly stand behind it. It does take some time and some effort, right? There's no easy solution. But once you've dialed in what we teach and you kind of get going, this will be what I call a tool in your tool belt, right?
Yeah.
That maybe you're not using right now. But the other thing is that this is all about our members, and we've now just recently launched a membership as well. So if you want to stick with us for a full year, you can join our Lifestyle Lawyer Collective membership. But we've got a lot of people who join the course and they're here and they're supporting their family and they're unhappy with whatever they're doing. That matters to me a lot. I don't take this, what I think is a responsibility, lightly, because I know how it feels. I know how it feels to launch a law firm and to be like, I've got to get a client in soon or else I'm not going to be able to pay the rent, right? That's how it was for me in the beginning. And I know how it feels. So this is coming from a place of, I'm here to help you get your business up and running. And that matters to me a lot because it is a big investment and it is scary. But once you get over the hump, it's very, very empowering. And so that matters to me a lot.
That's awesome. I think that's so important to hear. So thanks for that, Laura. So you just mentioned a membership. What, like a year-long membership that you just launched, right? So what is that? Can you tell us a few things that might include?
Yeah, so our membership is only a month old, so we're just beginning to roll it out. We've got our introductory members of about 25 people so far. It's a full year of coaching.
Okay.
And it also includes sort of content and materials that are not available in the actual course, more presentations, more marketing materials. We include monthly blog posts and monthly Instagram posts, and that's been really helpful. It's priced pretty low right now because we're still trying to figure out what people really want and need. But the main things are coaching, VIP content and materials, and a marketing bundle every month, basically. So you don't have to write your own blogs and pull together your own Instagram posts and stuff like that.
So you create an Instagram post for people? Is that what you're saying? And then that's awesome.
Yeah, we just send it out. We've got, we create 10 templates within Canva, and I just learned this recently myself, but you can create them within Canva and then you just share them with a certain group of people.
Oh, really?
And then they can go in and add their own branding colors.
Oh, that's
and then we
cool.
also provide the captions as well. So it's like done for you Instagram.
So I think you found a certain creative edge of yourself, Laura, with all of this too. Like you seem like very happy and willing to help people, and I think that's so important, especially with, you want to, and I like it's sort of like a mentorship too. Like you're an estate planning attorney mentor, and I think that's like really important for a lot of people. And I love that you say that you have law students, excuse me, sort of like chomping at the bit to like graduate and take your course and sort of be guided by you to become that an attorney, an estate planning attorney. I think that's terrific.
Yeah, and it matters a lot to me. I mean, I opened my practice 7 years ago, and anyone who knows me, my friends, my family, they know that I didn't really become the person that I was meant to be until I started a business.
Really?
And I was pretty old when I started my business.
So but you're not even talking about your law firm business. You're talking about.
No, I'm talking about my law firm when I opened my law firm 7 years ago.
Okay.
And it is a business, an estate planning business. But just that idea of not having to work for someone else, being able to do your own thing is life-changing for me. And so if you're in that situation where you're thinking, I might want to try this, well, I want to help you get there because I know how life-changing it was for me.
It's amazing. And I think there's no other better person to learn from than somebody who's been through it themselves. So congratulations on your success. That's incredible. And I'm really actually curious to see how the membership goes. I want to keep in touch and talk about that because we're launching something, a different kind of membership, obviously, but it's in the works. Hopefully for the fall. It was going to be the summer, but now it's sort of going to be the fall. It's we're rolling it out too. So that's amazing. Congratulations, Laura.
Thank you. Happy to chat at any time about your membership. It's an interesting business model, and I think it's a win-win. It's recurring revenue for you,
Yeah.
and then people get continued, access to resources that are helpful. So everybody wins.
Yeah, totally. Was there anything else we missed out today that any last advice that you want to provide the Lawyer Stories community?
Last minute advice, if you're interested in learning more, book a discovery call. If you go to the website, there's going to be a bunch of different links to book a discovery call, and you can join one of our upcoming sessions. It'll be with me, and we'll just chat more about the course and what's included. And if you're interested, that's great. And if not, that's fine too.
Laura Cowan, thanks so much for sharing your knowledge. Stay right there. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. Wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.